Right, what have we got today? Bush. Well, it's a smaller one today. I'm going to try and make this review small and to the point, which is kind of what this is. It's small and to the point, although it does have an interesting feature in that you can rotate the head. So it's the Brinyte, I hope I pronounced that right, Brinyte HL16 Noctua, and they're classing that as a 90-degree adjustable headlamp, and there's a little owl or something. So this was sent to me by Brinyte. They sent me this and my previous review, which was the Oathkeeper, and they said give us an honest review, and that's what I'm going to do on this. So it's an honest review. They don't have any part in the editing or anything like that. I produced that with my opinion, and it will be honest, and it always is. That's the point of this channel. Okay. So Brinyte HL16, I've put this back together. So obviously, you know, I have tested it. I've done, oh God, more than 2 weeks now. I just want to show you, this is how the retail package should arrive. And there's some things, maximum 520 lumens. That's on its highest setting. There is no turbo. I couldn't notice any step down, but that's great. It's IP66, so you can splash it with water. You can't jet it with water. So it's not waterproof, you know, but it's water resistant and it's dust resistant as well. 80 hours runtime, obviously that's on the lowest setting. I'll go through all the settings, don't worry. And they are claiming a 150 meter beam distance. It's a TIR, so we'll see. But I'll show you the beam shots. So we'll get a shot of that. I'll quickly show you. I'll put this all back together. There was a bit, where is it? There's a bit that I've taken out, obviously, just for ease of showing you things. So I'll quickly dump all this out, and we'll go through it as quickly as possible, because I know people find this boring, this bit. So there's the box, nothing else. Boosh, get that in the bin. Couple of O-rings, which is decent. This is almost like waxed paper. I haven't seen that before, which is quite nice. They just go between the machine parts, so I'll show you that now. Now there's only one on this. There's no section that can be changed here, so there's no thread here and here. The thread is simply at the bottom. And I shall show you, if we zoom in a bit there, hang on, there, if we zoom in a bit there, that there is the O-ring. So it's just a rubber O-ring which ensures waterproofing, as long as it's properly seated anyway. So we'll zoom back out again. Okay, and the threads on this are pretty nice. I like these trapezoidal or whatever they're called, if I can get it to focus a bit there. They're very good. I've had no problems with them, but I'll go over them with you. So you get a couple of these. Just sometimes what happens is if one of these O-rings isn't seated properly, it can shear. It does happen. I've done it myself, but it tends to happen less on lights like this and more with the really cheap fine threads, which are a nuisance. So bush, I'll keep that. What's this? Not interested in that. Here's some bits and pieces, so we'll get rid of that. That came in the light. It just stopped it from functioning, so we'll get rid of that. So it didn't work in transit. And then what's this here? This says here unscrew, remove. Yeah, so that's what I did just before. There was an insulating film just to stop the circuit, so we'll get a shot of that. There was a couple of bands here. These were the bands that were around the headband. I'll go into the headband. In fact, I'll show you the headband now, actually, just quickly. It's a decent one. At first when I saw it, I thought that's going to be a nuisance getting in and out, but it wasn't. Once you take this clip off, it does go in and it holds it pretty firmly. It's not like one. I quite like the way it's got this bridge between the two arms, which go in the gap. So you've got a gap here and a gap here, and it rotates like that. That actually kept it very secure. There was no flopping because it's only a 16340. It's a smaller light. It's not too heavy, and this kept it nice and tight, and it was decent quality. It's vented as well, so you get less sweat. I got a tiny bit here maybe, but I didn't get any funny itches or anything like that, because I'm a stickler when it comes to the quality of headbands. Because if this is against your head for, it could be all night if you're doing something important, you want to make sure you're not going to get any irritation. And there was no like bits sticking out or annoying bits. It's quite light, it's very strong, and it's vented, look. So very well made. I had no problems with this. It was decent, one of the better ones. And it's got like it sort of loops back round. There it is. There's that loops round, and then you just pull to adjust, which I like. In fact, I had it upside down there. There you go. No problems with that whatsoever. I would have maybe liked to have seen some sort of reflective marks that you could use or something like that, but other than that, it's brilliant. And it doesn't have the, some of them have like a glue. In fact, I'll show you. Here's a one from another company where you have these glues that they put in. It looks like someone's got a hot glue gun, they've been playing around, but it stops it moving around and it's supposed to channel sweat away. Although, to be fair, it's an open waffle design, so it gets rid of a lot of sweat. I didn't have any problems, although the times I was out using this as a headlamp, it was probably between 5 and 7 centigrade, something like that, Celsius. I'm trying to think. It wasn't that hot, so if you live in a hot environment, I can't really vouch for that. Okay, so here's the book. I can't be bothered to read this, but I will go through all the features with you. If you want to pause it though, there it is there. There's the description, there's some specs, brilliant. And then, what's this? Is this in German or something? No, that's a little bit more. Telling you how to put the head strap on. I had no problems, mine worked straight out of the box. Warranty card, blah, blah, blah. Okay, right. So this is a mag charger. So I'll go over that and then I'll show you the light. So what is magnetic charging? Well, magnetic charging is a way of charging a light without having to take the cell out, where you're not having to find little flaps and say, right, where's the USB cable? Right, stick it in here, stick it in there. You have a interface. Now this is proprietary, so you have to have their cable, and I'll give you a close-up of their cable. So that's what it looks like. It's got this cylinder, and then it has a spring-mounted central section and then a magnet. So I'll show you that, because that pushes in. Watch. It's hard to show you if I can get it to focus there. So see, that pushes in and out, and that goes into the central section. So I'll show you that. So you just bring that near to it and boom, there. And it rotates. So what you could do is, if you're using this regularly, I would probably leave this plugged in somewhere. Just come into the house and then just go blang, done. So we'll show if that works. So here we have a charger with some cells in. So it's type A. So you plug that in and let's see what we're getting here. So red is, I think, is it red for charging? Yeah, green, it's fully charged. Okay, so it charges at about 5 volts. Ignore that figure there, 5 volts. It isn't charging at the moment because the battery is full. I've recharged it this morning because I've been out again last night. It's pretty fast charging. I noticed it charged pretty rapidly. I kind of say it's one of the slower ones. We'll go over how long that took and the battery indicator and things like that in a second, but it does work. You don't have to worry about type C to type C and all that, because it's a mag charger, it's proprietary. You have to use their cable. It's type A, and then it'll go straight away. And you can see that's shut off there because it doesn't want to take any juice. It doesn't need it. So the question is, does this work whilst it's off? Sorry, whilst it's running. So let's have a look. So got this here. Put that on. In fact, did I have that? I think I had it unscrewed. In fact, I did. So that may have been why it wasn't charging, because it'll probably want to top this battery up. No, it's full. Okay, so does it work whilst it's charging? No. So now that's a problem. So I'm going to mark them down a little bit for that. I prefer a light that I can use whilst I'm charging, and just to show you that, I'll take the cable off. Does function, and off again, and then try that again. Put the charging cable on, doesn't function. See? So it's a shame, especially camping and hiking and things like that. I've mentioned this multiple times before. I use that feature. So I'm using it to do all sorts of stuff. And then when I'm in camp or in the tent or whatever, I'd want to put that on charge, but still use it so I can actually see what the hell I'm doing. And then turn it off, and then in the morning I know that's going to be full. That's a bit of a nuisance. It's a feature I would have liked to have seen, but okay, it hasn't got that one. So turn that off. So you can mag charge it with the provided cable, and it does work. So boosh, get shot of that. Okay, so let's talk about this. So they are claiming that this is a headlamp, which it is. You have to use the supplied headband, which I had no problems with. Pretty nice, looks nice, decent. I like this little bridge, and this was very secure. And then you just rotate it like that, and then obviously you need to put it in and rotate that down, and then you use that like that, or you can put it in that way and then use, but then to do that one I was having to use my finger to do the button. I tended to have it to the left of me, and then I would just use my left hand. So yes, that does work. Now what I did was I used this primarily as an EDC light, though. I used it for fixing things. The reason I did that is because of this 90 degrees, the good clip, and it's got a mag base. So if you have something metallic, which I will have a look for, there you go, that'll do. Some cheapy pliers there. So if you had something metallic, it will stick, and it does stay on. So inside of a car, or I used it inside of computer cases and things like that, and then you can angle that where you want, turn the light on, and you're good to go, and swivel it around. So the mag's decent, and it does work, even on a very small contact point. You see, I've got that on a corner there, on an actual corner, and it's still hanging. See, that's on an actual corner. So very good magnet in this, no problems with that. So you do have that as a feature. I did say it's IP66. I would prefer to have seen IPX8 or something like that. It's certainly dust proof, although just make sure you don't want to get anything in here. And the mag base is flat. What a lot of companies do is they'll have the magnetic charging somewhere around here. The problem with that is, depends where you live and what you're doing, but you can get iron filings on and scuffs, and you can get stuff, particles attached to here which can cause an issue. I don't tend to get that unless you're working in a machine shop or near real roads or mining and things like that, but that's just something to bear in mind. But no problems, it's nice and smooth, so decent. It'll take a splash of water. I would prefer to have seen IPX8 though, because on headlamps, if you're not putting it under a cap, or you've got it on the top of a cap, or it's on your head, it's not going to get maximum protection. So I'd like to have seen at least an IPX7 or above. But it'll be okay for some tasks, but I certainly wouldn't want to take this on a multiple night hike, just in case it absolutely poured down and water gets in. It's a nuisance. It just tries to get itself in there. I don't know if I would risk it, but that's just something to bear in mind. So it's dust proof and water resistant. It uses a 16340 cell. You can use a CR123, I think the smaller one, same size but a different name. So we'll show you that there. So in fact, you can just see, look, there's the magnet working again. So we'll put that down and let's have a look at this cell. Okay, so you get a cell with it, in with the price, and they've wrapped it. It's a Brinyte wrap over the top here, 650 milliamp hours. And you can see, if I can get it to focus, it's a 16340 high drain. I can't see what the amp is on this, but it's only 502 on maximum, so it's not going to be particularly high. Integrated battery, overcharge, discharge protection circuit. Great, no problems. Something of a little button top, but I've tried other cells and I didn't have any problems. No problems with this. So we'll get that back in and I'll just show you. So it's got a flat top in the bottom there. In other words, it's not a double spring, and then on the bottom you have a standard spring. And yes, don't worry, I'm not using my finger, I'm using the nail. Decent spring, quite stiff, not one of these ridiculous floppy ones, but it's not high drain anyway. So get that back in and we'll show you some more about the light. Okay, so like I say, mad charging, they're claiming, and I found it's probably around that. They're saying 1.5 hours for a full charge. Yeah, although to be fair, that's not that fast because it's not the biggest cell, is it? It's a rather small cell with not the hugest milliamp hours, but it will charge. And when it's on, this indicator ring, which I quite like, it'll be red for charging and then green when it's completed. So as soon as you see that green, take it off, boom, and as you've seen, it stops drawing current when it doesn't need it. Okay, so UI on this is very simple. So it's click. Now you can't just click it, it won't do anything. It's click and hold. Now I prefer that because it means there's less chance of you automatically accidentally knocking this on. It doesn't stop it, because if you're in a car and it presses on the leg or something like that, it's still going to go on, but it's slightly less likely to happen. So it's click and hold for on, and it is memory mode, so it's remembering the mode that I was in last, and then click and off. That's as simple as that. So click and hold on, click and hold off. So when it's on, what you do is it's one click and it'll cycle through the UI. So it's in reverse. It doesn't start low, medium, high, and turbo and all that. It goes reverse. So it's memory mode here. So that's on its highest, then medium, low, and then moon, and then it'll go back to high again. There, that's back to high. You have got a strobe. Double click. There's strobe. I'll cover that because I don't want to annoy people. So it does have a strobe. You can't program that. It's a fixed strobe, and it's okay. I would prefer to have seen maybe a little bit slower, but it's certainly functionable as a strobe. It does the job. No problems with that. So that's basically it for the UI. It's pretty good, and I'll take you through those now. Those modes. So if we turn that on, so that's high. That's 520 lumens. I've used this extensively outside. I didn't notice any particular step downs. It never really gets hot enough, but it's not a massive output anyway. The head never feels that hot, but that's not a massive output, but decent. So 520 lumens, you get about an hour. I think on their website it's something like 1 hour 5 minutes, but you'll get about an hour. And then one click goes down. So medium, 200 lumens, great setting that for walking about and stuff like that. 1 hour 40 minutes. And the next one, low, 60 lumens. You can still walk by that, although you're going to have to bring it closer down to the floor and things like that. 4 hours, 50 minutes, which is pretty impressive for something quite so small. And then moon, which is the lowest. Moon, 5 lumens, 80 hours. 80 hours is great. I would have preferred to have seen the lowest setting. Maybe it's 1 lumen or lower. I like a nice 1 or sub-lumen mode, so it doesn't ruin night vision if you're reading a map up close, and it gives you a super extended runtime. I'm not sure why they've chosen 5 lumens, but that's their choice. There's no turbo, and I didn't notice any step down on that highest mode, so pretty decent. And in regards to the battery level indicator, You know, when you're charging, it's red and then green when it's finished. When you run it, it does give you an indication of what's happening with the cell. So we'll turn this on. There you go. And then if I cover that, there, can you see that that's green there? So if it's green, the battery is between 100 and then all the way down to 40%. If it changes to a solid red, it's between 40 and 5%. In other words, you really need to start charging it soon. And then if it flashes red, warning, you know, it's less than 5%. So you really must start charging, otherwise you're going to start damaging the amount of cycles you get out of the cell. Turn that back off. So all in all, pretty decent. I like the clip on this. It's reversible. So, you know, well, it's semi-reversible anyway. It's you can just use that bit, but I prefer to use it the normal way, which is like this. The only problem I did have with it was it's got one of these annoying bumps, and I'll show you what happens. So imagine this is the top of your pockets, okay? So the top of your pockets come up, and then the first thing to do is the catch on that bloody bump there, and then you go, come on, why won't it move, why not move? And then eventually you get it over the top, and then it goes all the way down. That's a bit of a nuisance. I don't know why manufacturers still add that in. All you need to do is smooth that off, or add a ramp, even a tiny little angled ramp, because that catches my jeans pocket. So that's a nuisance, and it does have this little detent bump there, which helps it with retention. So it's not deep carry if you carry it like that, but you know, and you can put it on webbing and things like that, although it was a little bit loose because this isn't super tight, and you've got quite a big gap there, but you can put it on webbing and pockets, angle that down, and then get on with work. I like that as a feature, and this is a feature is decent. It does work. You can angle it. It seems to use, can you see those holes there? They seem to be some sort of detent hole, and I presume there'll be a ball bearing down here, so you have multiple different angles. So you've got full up, then you've got an angle there, another one, and it doesn't come out, it stays in that angle, and then another one. That's your full 90 degrees, and again, it does not come out. It's nice and solid. It feels decent, feels like a good piece of kit, well made. So good feature, mag charging, decent button. It doesn't go off by accident, although it doesn't have e-lock, which is a shame. That's not in the, you know, a lot of them, I would have liked to have seen them add e-lock, maybe it's 4 presses and then it flashes for an e-lock. It's a shame that, but it's decent, well made, but they really need to change that slightly. Okay, so I did some testing, so I'll put this here out the way. Okay, so I did a little bit of testing. So I tested the beam. Now on Brinyte's website, I think they claim this is a cool white, or in other words, 6,000 Kelvin in colour. That's a description of the tint that the light gives you. So I did some testing, and in my testing I came up with 5,816 K. I could get it nearer the 6,000 if I slightly rotated the beam and what have you. So they're about right, yeah, there's no problems there. So around 6,000 Kelvin for the colour that you're going to get, in other words, white rather than a warm tint or a more neutral one. In regards to CRI, my testing, it was just over 70, but there's margin for error, so around 70%, which is what you'd expect from something like a Cree emitter, so no problems there. I tested for flicker. I didn't find, there was some pulse width modulation, but it wasn't enough where you would notice it. I wasn't able to capture it even on video equipment going to 1,000 frames a second. I tried really hard to capture it, I couldn't, it was too rapid. It is there, but I can't see it, and I can't duplicate finding it on video footage. And I mean, as you can see from the data I'm putting up on screen there, there is some. I've put a graph up, I can't see it. It's certainly not an issue. Okay, so we'll get rid of that now. Boosh, get that off the screen there. Okay, so pretty good really. I mean, what I'll do is I'll give you some pros and cons, and I'll also show you some beam shots. In fact, I'll show you them now because I compared it against all these lights. Now you're probably thinking, TrailTrek, what are you playing at? They're not headlamps. No, they're not headlamps, but they're a similar size cell, similar emitters, similar size. Because it's all very well, you know, if I was to come in and say, right, I'm going to compare all these, I've got a huge headlamp here, which, you know, 2,500 lumens, this is 1,000. The problem with that is that's unfair. If I do that, that's going to look crap in compared to them all. I would rather compare it to similar emitters, similar size with a similar cell, and then you can see how well this is doing. I think that's what I aim to do. I did use it as a headlamp multiple times. I went on hikes and it's fine, but I think this is a fairer way to test it. So in fact, hang on, right, let's move these out the way slightly. Right, so let's bring in a picture. Okay, so we've got a nice picture here. So what I did was I went outside and I used a tripod. I used the same settings and exposures for everything. I held the lights at exactly the same position and I aimed at exactly the same target for the same amount of time, and I took an image. So what can we see here? So you've got all, so let's start top left. Armitech Prime C1. Now yes, it uses a slightly larger cell. It's not a 16340, it's an 18350, but it's a similar size light, similar emitters and things like that. So what can you see straight off? It's a very warm light. It's much closer to sunlight, isn't it? Very, very warm. Some people would say, well, I don't like that, and yet other people do like that. But what can we say looking at that? Well, it seems sensible in the middle. You can see that bridge, no problems. You can see the foreground and everything. The far extremity to the right, you would say there's a drop off there. It uses a TIR, but there is drop off. So with that in mind, it's not giving you maximum peripheral vision, but that's fine. Okay, so moving on to the light that we're supposed to be looking at here, the Brinyte HL16. What can we see on that one? That also has drop off. In fact, slightly more drop off, maybe to the far right and the far left, just ever so slightly. But to be fair, bear in mind the Brinyte is 502 lumens on maximum on that, in that image there, and the Armitech is nearly 1000. So really, it's doing fantastic. If you think that's using almost half the lumens of the Armitech there, doing an exceptional job. Also, I think it's nice and bright in the middle. You can certainly see all of that bridge, no problem whatsoever. Foreground's fine. I think there's probably more drop off, especially at the bottom left and bottom right. But again, it's using less lumens, so that's kind of to be expected. And they both use a TIR setup, which is, rather than a lens, it's a solid piece of plastic. Okay, so moving on to the jet beam, top right there. Jet beam Jet 2 MK, kind of similar looking at first glance, a little bit more green maybe, rather than white. It doesn't seem to suffer as much from drop off. If we zoom in on the tree top right on both the Brinyte and the jet beam, see those two limbs, perfectly viewable on the jet beam, whereas not so viewable on the Brinyte. So there's more drop off. You're getting less peripheral vision on the Brinyte, which may be a problem if you're going hiking, for example. But I think because of the low output on this, it's more for close-up stuff. So we'll zoom back out there. Okay, so what's the Sofern doing? Now bear in mind the Sofern uses a completely different emitter. Okay, so this uses the Samsung emitter, and the emitter is, I think, the LH351D, I think it is, more renowned for a floody warm beam. It certainly doesn't look warm in comparison to the Armitech, does it? But it has a similar drop off to the jet beam, although in the very, very far extremities there's slightly more detail, I would say, ever so slightly. You know, I wouldn't push my luck and make too many claims on that. It's very, very slight, but quite white looking, even though in person it didn't look like that. The next one, we've got the OTR M3 Pro, which is on the road M3 Pro. The Pro version allows you to charge through a Type-C. That looks quite warm. That looks like a nice compromise between the Armitech, which is very, very warm, and then something like the Brinyte, which is more towards white, towards neutralish. So the on the road looks pretty decent, not too much drop off. I think that does an exceptional job, although to be fair, the Sofern and the OTR M3 Pro are using an orange blue reflector, so you get a slightly different setup there, how the light comes out. I think that's a good all-rounder. Even to the far extremities, far left and far bottom on the OTR M3 Pro, you can see all the ground there, all the leaves, brilliant, does a decent job. Not as much throw as the Brinyte. If you compare, in fact, what we'll do is we'll zoom into the bridge on the Brinyte and MT OTR. What you can see is the foreground it's maybe a little bit brighter looking on the Brinyte, although that may be a function of the fact that it's a white beam and they tend to look a bit whiter. Although to be fair, the OTR is outputting more lumens. So again, the Brinyte is doing an excellent job for the amount of lumens that it's outputting. So we'll zoom back out of there again, boosh. And then lastly, the OTR 311, very similar to the M3 Pro, much smaller though, it's a tail clicker, you can't charge it with Type-C. Orange peel again and a Cree emitter. Not a lot to say, similar to the Sofern-ish, I would say. There's some similarities there, although the Sofern seems to have slightly better peripheral, very, very slightly. It's quite a closely run thing, which really shows you how good the Brinyte is, because it's not outputting the level of lumens that a lot of those other ones are. Yes, the Jet Beam Jet 2 is only 510 lumens, I think they claim, whereas the Brinyte's 520, so they should be very similar. The Jet Beam actually looks slightly brighter in some instances there, and it's got less fall off, but it's using a different emitter, so it's a difficult one there, and slightly different. Maybe it looks a bit greener. So I think the Brinyte, bearing in mind it's using a small cell which will last longer because it's not outputting 800 to 1000 lumens like these other ones, you're going to get longer run times. It's certainly functionable as a headlamp, and up close, fine. Okay, so we'll get rid of that photograph there now. Okay, so that's gone. Right, so it does a decent job. Now, we need to go through good points and bad points, and then I'll show you them alongside, and I'll give you a description. So good points and bad points. Okay, so pros, it's very small, even though it is rotatable. I mean, look, compare that to them. Yes, you could say, well, that's smaller, that's smaller. It is, but you can't rotate it, you know, and it doesn't have any buttons. This is, you know, very minimalist. It's because it's a rotary action in order to make it function. Whereas this, you know, that's hard to use one-handed. You've got to do that in the dark, and it's a nuisance. Whereas this, you can just press a button and it's on. Much easier. So it is small, nice, lightweight. Works on its headlamp band, no problem. It's got a rotatable head, and it stays in position. It's not one of these iffy ones where you know the wind blows and it goes flying up and you think, oh, thanks very much. Decent mag tail, which does work, very strong. Memory mode, so it remembers where you were. Battery indicator, I really like that function. I really like that. It's a TIR. In regards to TIR, TIR is great. However, there's some tint shift, and I'll show you that. Okay, so can you see what's happening here? So you've got this quite fat hot spot, but then you see this color ring, this almost this halo effect. So what you're getting is you're getting some tint shift. So it's going from completely white to then like an olivey yellow, and then you get this, then the spill goes back into a normal white. It's quite pronounced on this. If you pull back, watch, you can still see a ring there. I know it might be hard for you to see. There's something of a ring there, you see it? And then you pull back, gone. So up close, you will see some tint shift. And I think I pointed that out in my thoughts video. I showed you on some ground. I try to give you a good representation. So there is tint shift, unfortunately, on this TIR. TIR is great for up close. It smooths out the beam, although they've tried to go for a bit of throw in the middle here with some sort of lensing. You can see it there right in the middle. And you do get some tint shift, so I just wanted to mention that. Parasitic drain are very low on this. I tested it. When it's off and you haven't got any indicator lights or anything like that, I think it's 0.1 milliamps. Very, very, very low parasitic drain, which is good because it's a small battery. So very, very low, no problems. Cons, you can't use it whilst charging. That's a problem. Not everyone uses that, I realise that. Most people say, well, who the hell's going to do that? I do. So I'll just wanted to mention that. Clip has an obstructive bump, unfortunately. That's easily fixable. You know, they just issue a new one. The cable's quite short as well, but if you can't use it whilst charging, that's probably not an issue. So I may be talking a little rubbish there, but I think that could be a little bit longer. It's got the tint shift there, which I'll show you. Yeah, can you see it? Most people would buy this and go, what are you talking about? But I'm a flashlight snob, so I have to mention these things. And there's no E-lock out. I would have liked to have seen 4 clicks to E-lock out. As it is, you can get the same effect by doing that. There, it won't work, see? And then you tighten it up, and now it will work. So yes, I realise there's a workaround. You just do that, and then you get on with your life. But I would have liked to have seen that in the UI. There's room for it. You know, it's not like it's an over-cluttered UI and there's no room for it. So there is room for them to do that, but they've chosen not to, which is absolutely fine. Okay, so there's your good points and bad points. I'll quickly show you what they're like in regards to this. So here's the Jet Beam, the Jet IIMK. Rotary, so very small, 500 and, I think it's 510 lumens maximum. It's only got 3 levels. Uses an orange peel reflector with a Cree emitter. A little bit green at points, but not quite bright, very capable for its size, but you can't charge it up, you can't rotate it. It's not TIR for up close. No battery level indicator or anything like that, very bare bones. So there's just one of your other choices. I compared it against the on-the-road M3 Pro. M3 Pro because you can charge it with your Type-C. There's your Type-C. Nice and compact, same size cell, 16340. Orange peel again, very capable. This is about 4,500 or 4,000 K tint. So not as white as this, but it depends, and you're losing features like rotatable, but very similar. The clip on this one also has a bump, so although I'm slagging that off, there's other manufacturers do exactly the same thing, and I understand that. The Sofern, very, very complex UI, so if you like that, that's great. Some people don't, I do. Quick to turbo and things like that. It's using a Samsung emitter, which is nice. Just another of your choices, but that button's prone to go on, but you have got E-lock and things like that. And it uses an orange peel reflector, but decent. 311 from On The Road. Underrated tail clicker, does a decent job. Nice, very small and compact, but to charge it, you've got to unscrew this, which I like because it keeps it more waterproof. You unscrew this, and then you've got a Type-C there. Pretty underrated, but there's just another of your choices there. So, 501 lumens, I think that's around 1,000-ish. That's 800 to 1,000. This is 800 to 1,000, and this is around 1,000. This uses a slightly larger cell. I'll show you that. It's an 18350. I just used it because it's a similar size there. So there's an 18350, so slightly bigger, which means milliamp hours, 1,100. So you're getting double, but you need it because it's double the output, theoretically anyway. So there you go. Okay, and very warm in comparison. I'll show you that there. So very, very warm. I'll show you there. So this is very white. This is very warm. You see. But you could argue there may be some tint shift on that, but it's hard to see because it's so warm, whereas you can definitely see it on there. Okay, so let's give this a mark out of 10. Get rid of all this. Right, so it's small. You've got mag charging, rotatable head, mag tail, memory mode, battery indicator, which I really like, and it warns you when it's going down. Decent fast charging, TIR, great up close, low parasitic drain. However, you can't use it whilst charging. I realise not everybody needs that. The clip has an obstructive bump. Again, I'm being picky. Yes, I understand that. Short USB cable, not so much of an issue if you can't use it whilst charging. Yes, okay, so that's a moot point. Fair enough. Bit of tint shift. Again, I'm a flashlight snob. I don't want that. Other people would say I couldn't care less, and I understand that. No E-lock output. You just do that. There you go. It's locked and it's unlocked. See, simple as that. Okay, so no sort of flicker that I could sort of point out. Okay, CRI and the tints are about where they say. So quite a nice package actually. Pretty decent, nice and small. So let's have a think about this. What can I give this? Bearing in mind there's very little to complain about other than things that I like for camping, and oh, I don't like a bump and things like that, and oh, there's a tint shift, there's a slight halo here and things like that. I'm going to have to give this an 8 because those, as far as I'm concerned, for the mass market, they're going to look at me like I'm an idiot and go, what on earth are you talking about? And understand a lot of people who watch my videos, it's the mass market. A lot of the people who comment aren't from the mass market. They are knowledgeable people who comment on my videos and they'll say, I don't like this, I don't like that, and that's fine. But I need to look at this on a wider scale. It's going to have to be an 8. It's small, it's brilliant, I like it. I love the way they've done it. I especially like this. I've genuinely used this for fixing computers and stuff. It works. I like it. I think they've done a decent job. But I would change those few things, make it function whilst charging, get rid of the bump, and slightly change the TIR here, and get rid of that tint shift if possible, and then you would have a stunning little, very nice capable 16 at 340 with rotatable head. So well done, solid 8, well done, Brinyte. Enough of me waffling. Let's get outside, and I've got loads of shots, comparisons side by side. I've tried to take as many shots as possible, and I've been out multiple times. So enough of me talking. Have a look at that. So I'm off. Bye bye. Whee! you.